So I think we covered a little bit about what the organization does with the first part of the introduction. Um, what do you see as your biggest challenge? Like,
Well,
like,
there
what
are
is something that you see as like a pretty big challenge for the organization?
there are so many that come off the top of my head, to be honest with you. But I'd say the most recent one that I've seen, there are a couple. I'll talk a little bit about one and then really dive into the next one. The
Okay.
first one I think is the New York State Legislature is projecting not to fully fund something called HIPNAP. It is the Hunger Prevention and Nutrition Assistance Program. They're planning to cut that by about $22 million. So that is a program that organizations like us we apply to, we receive grant money for, and we get like it's essentially free food from the regional food bank. Our partners through Feeding America at the regional food bank of northeastern New York in Latham. So each time we have an order, they'll be like, well, we applied this HIPNAP grant to your order, so instead of paying like $4,000 you pay 1,500, which is a really considerable break considering that we get anywhere from, on average, 8 to 10,000 pounds of food a month.
Right.
Um, and if we had to purchase that at retail, we already saw this. We saw an increase of about 20% cost in food. I think we went over like $14,000 over budget this year. So not fully funding KIPNAP is making it much more difficult for these organizations to purchase the food to provide for people that are hungry and can't afford the food to begin with. Um, and the other one, obviously, is the SNAP benefit reduction and the erasure of the emergency allotments. I was just talking to someone who received $300 a month for 3 years during the pandemic status. He's down to $23 a month, and that's the bare minimum. So if $23 a month right now, if you're lucky, will get you 2 dozen eggs and a loaf of bread, if you're
Right.
lucky. So for a lot of people, and they have not adjusted for inflation, and they have not adjusted for the increased cost of food just in general. Uh, so I think it's going to be a struggle for a lot of people if they don't change anything. I know the New York State Legislature is planning to meet again in like April or May to discuss the new guidelines. So I'm hoping that something changes from there, but I foresee it being pretty difficult for a lot of people.
So, in regards to this, is there something that people can do? Like, should people be encouraged to contact their representatives in Albany? Like, who do they
Yeah,
contact? Can you send me like who specifically maybe should be contacted in your
sure,
area?
sure. I There's been a few petitions that have been circulating about. I've been trying to send it out to as many people as I know.
Okay.
And there was like I think through Feeding America, they had a big call your representative day. I think this was about a week ago.
Okay.
And even call your governor. I think I called Kathy Hochul 5 times. I haven't received a call back, but I'm not surprised. um, so that's certainly one way to go about it. And just to make everyone aware as much as you can on social media, and honestly read the news. That has been the biggest thing that I've seen that has really helped me educate myself, honestly, on what the new guidelines are, what to look for, and how other food banks are starting to handle this influx of people.
About it. Um, you said there were two challenges.
I I would say the other challenge that we've been trying to break this down as much as we can is just honestly the stigma around coming to a food pantry. Most people I talk to feel ashamed. They feel like they're failing because they haven't been able to pay for their rent and pay for groceries and get their child off to school at time. All while handling. I mean, the way I think about it is, you spent 3 years trying to survive a global pandemic, and now you can't afford to buy food. You can't afford your rent. There has to be a breaking point at some point, and we're trying to. And my goal at the pantry is to provide a welcoming environment and to get as far a reach as to as many people as possible. Um, and the way we do that is I've tried. We have the new form on the website that we have. People email me if they don't feel comfortable talking to a volunteer on the phone.
Yep.
People have messaged me on Facebook if they don't feel comfortable talking on the phone. So really trying to open as many avenues as physically possible, so people feel like they're heard, feel like they're welcomed, and also just make sure that they don't feel like they're failing at all. I mean, everyone needs help at some point, whether it's now, whether it's 2 years from now. Like, you're going to need help at some point, and we want to make sure that people feel comfortable enough to come to us and ensure that they get what they need, even if it is a little difficult.
Well, I think that's a really important thing, and it has to be really hard to, to be in a position and have to, have to ask for help. I mean, I
Yeah.
think asking for help is difficult to begin with, but when you put all those other stressors into the equation,
Mm-hmm.
um, I can't imagine, and I'm so glad to hear that, this your program is basically not putting those stigmas on that request and those asks for assistance.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great.